Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're looking at 10 players who returned to their former club and how it didn't go according to plan. 10. Jermain Defoe. With over 300 goals, 162 of them coming in the Premier League, Jermain Defoe has impressed wherever he's gone. However, his second spells with both Bournemouth and Sunderland left a lot to be desired. His first team break came with the Cherries, who he joined on loan whilst with West Ham in the 2000-2001 season. In the third tier, an 18-year-old Defoe scored in each of his first 10 matches at Dean Court, eventually ending the campaign with 18 goals. He'd returned 16 years later with them in the Premier League, but couldn't recapture his form. After just 4 goals in 34 games, he moved on to Rangers. Defoe also became a favourite at Sunderland, who he joined in 2015 after a stint with MLS side Toronto. He may have been 32, but still scored over 30 goals across 2 campaigns for the Black Cats, before their relegation saw him depart for Bournemouth. And honestly, the less said about his Stadium of Light return, the better. Signing in January this year, Defoe would last less than 2 months and just 7 matches before deciding he'd rather hang up his boots instead, bringing an abrupt end to a sparkling career. 9. Mario Götze. Joining Borussia Dortmund as an 8-year-old, Mario Götze was a homegrown favourite. He made his debut aged 17 in 2009, and by the time he was 21, had already racked up a century of appearances for the club. Soon after, he left BVB, with Bayern Munich activating his buyout clause of €37 million. Götze spent just 3 seasons in Bavaria, and the 2015-16 campaign proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back, with the playmaker missing 22 games. That summer, he returned to Dortmund, stating that he regretted the decision to join Bayern in 2013. But any hopes of rekindling his form at his old club were dashed after a metabolic illness kept him out of action for months, and went some way to explaining previous fitness issues. Over the next 4 years, Götze would miss 45% of Dortmund's Bundesliga matches, and although he put up decent numbers, managing 14 goal contributions in 2018-19 would never hold down a regular spot at the Westfalenstadion, with the club releasing him in 2020. Still only 29 years old, Götze is now at PSV, and the 2014 World Cup winner is finally getting back to his best. 8. Fabio Cannavaro. Despite playing for rivals in Napoli, Parma and Inter Milan, Fabio Cannavaro was welcomed by Juventus fans in 2004 with open arms, with the centre-back considered one of the best in world football. In his 2 years in Turin, he won 2 Serie A titles, although both were rescinded after the Calciopoli scandal, as well as 2 Defender of the Year awards and Serie A's 2006 Player of the Year. But because of Juve's Calciopoli-induced relegation to Serie B, the 2006 World Cup and Ballon d'Or winner would eventually leave for Real Madrid. However, after 3 successful years in Spain, the 5'9" defender would return. But his relationship with the fans was fragile following his perceived betrayal when he left, and the Bianconeri's group stage elimination from the Champions League left it in tatters. A red card when 4-1 up on aggregate against Fulham in the Europa League didn't help matters either, as Juve collapsed to a 5-4 defeat, and would then finish the campaign in 7th, their worst placing in a decade. With no Champions League, the club announced they wouldn't be renewing the 36-year-old's contract, ultimately letting him see out his career in the United Arab Emirates. 7. Robbie Keane. After playing for 4 clubs in the first 5 years of his career, Keane finally found a steady home at White Hart Lane, netting double figures in each of his 6 campaigns there, totalling 80 goals in 197 Premier League appearances. This earned him a £20 million move to Liverpool in July 2008, the club he supported as a boy. But it didn't go according to plan. Keane would score just 7 goals across all competitions, and Spurs bought him back just 6 months later for a cut price. However, his brief stint at Anfield seemed to affect his confidence. After just 11 goals in a year, Keane was sent to Celtic on loan, and whilst he returned to form with 16 goals in 19 games, it was not forthcoming back in England. No goals in 2010-11 saw him sent out on loan again, this time to West Ham, who were fighting relegation. In total, Keane would add just 15 goals in his second Spurs spell, a far cry from the consistency of his first. 6. Paul Pogba. First joining Manchester United as a 16-year-old in 2009, Paul Pogba made just 7 appearances before leaving for Juventus on a free transfer in 2012. It was in Italy where the midfielder blossomed into a superstar, winning 4 league titles and 2 Coppa Italia trophies, contributing 74 goals in 178 appearances for the Bianconeri. United paid a then world record £90 million to bring Pogba back to Old Trafford in 2016. and it was meant to be the perfect reunion. Whilst everything was broadly fine, if not ideal, in his first 2 seasons back in Manchester, it was off the pitch during the 2018-19 campaign where it started to go wrong. He was filmed having a confrontation with their manager Jose Mourinho, who eventually branded him a virus. And then in 2019, the injuries began. Since then, Pogba's missed over 70 matches while on the physio table, and rumours surrounding his future have continued to hit the headlines. First, United wanted to offer him a new deal, and then they didn't, believing his demands didn't represent the player he was on the pitch for them. Now out with injury once more, it's likely he won't play again for Manchester United before his contract expires this summer. So here we are yet again, with the midfielder departing on a free. 5. Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. There's a case to be made that Klaas-Jan Huntelaar is one of football's most underrated strikers. The Dutchman averaged more than a goal every other game during his 19-year career, turning out for both Real Madrid and AC Milan before finding his home in a top 5 league with Schalke in 2010. In Germany, Huntelaar scored 126 goals in 240 matches, before returning to Ajax on a free in 2017. But it's not his return to Ajax where Huntelaar would stumble, as he added 53 goals in 3.5 years to the 105 he put up at the club between 2006 and 2009. No, we're talking about the striker's return to Gelsenkirchen as a 37-year-old in January 2021, where he was given an impossible task: save Schalke from relegation. Huntelaar spent the first 2 months back in blue out with injury, not making his first start until April. At the end of the campaign, he only had 2 goals to his name, still enough to be the club's 3rd top goal scorer for the season. The Dutchman retired that summer. 4. Diego Costa. Atletico Madrid have a history of producing world-class strikers, and that was no different with Diego Costa. After a number of loan spells, the Brazilian-born Spain international broke through as a 22-year-old in 2010-11, truly exploding 3 years later when he scored 27 goals in 35 matches as Atleti won the league title. Chelsea activated his £32 million buyout clause, and he netted 52 Premier League goals in just 3 seasons at Stamford Bridge, before suddenly finding himself out of Antonio Conte's plans. Subsequently, he returned to the Spanish capital for £54 million, but it wasn't the same Costa that returned. Between January 2018 and December 2020, the striker missed 60 matches owing to injury, and would score just 19 times in 81 matches across all competitions. This means his final season at Stamford Bridge, where he scored 22 times, was more productive than the next 3 at the club where he became a superstar. Ultimately, the decision was made to terminate Costa's contract 6 months early. 3. Antoine Griezmann. And wouldn't you know it, we have another example of a world-class player returning to Atleti, only to be a shadow of their former selves. Antoine Griezmann was effectively signed as Diego Costa's replacement, and during his 5 years with Los Colchoneros, would score 133 goals in 257 matches, putting him 5th on their all-time scoring list. His €120 million move to Barcelona in 2019 was controversial to say the least, and after 2 years in which he scored just 35 goals, he was sent back to Atleti on loan last summer. However, his performances have done little to repair the fractured relationship with the fans after all the drama his move to Barcelona generated. As it stands, Griezmann, who is now 31, is set for the lowest scoring league season of his career, having only netted 3 times. Amidst all this, if the Frenchman plays a certain amount of games, the €40 million option to buy becomes obligatory. So it wouldn't be unfair to suggest that benching Griezmann might be in Atletico Madrid's best interests. 2. Andriy Shevchenko. When you think of the great AC Milan strikers, you think of Andriy Shevchenko, and rightly so. The Ukrainian joined the Rossoneri from Dynamo Kiev in 1999 as a 23-year-old, and would finish as top goal scorer in his first Serie A campaign with 24, narrowly ahead of the already established Gabriel Batistuta and Hernan Crespo. In his first spell at the San Siro, the Ukrainian would race to second in their all-time scoring charts with 173. Then the newly cash-flush Chelsea came calling in 2006, smashing the British transfer record with a £31 million deal. But his career never got going at Stamford Bridge. After just 9 Premier League goals in 2 years, Milan struck a deal to bring him back on loan. But really, they shouldn't have bothered. Shevchenko would add just 2 goals to his tally in 2008-09, and neither of those came in his 18 Serie A appearances. The 32-year-old made just 9 starts all campaign, and instead of bringing back the legend permanently, the Italians would send him back to Chelsea at the conclusion of the season. It's not the ending he deserved at the club where he's best remembered. 1. Romelu Lukaku. It was meant to be a match made in heaven, but Romelu Lukaku's Chelsea reunion has developed into a hellish scenario. After being signed for around £10 million as an 18-year-old in 2011, the striker was unable to break into the Blues' first team, with no goals in 15 appearances. He did, however, impress in loan spells with West Brom and Everton, meaning the Blues almost tripled their money when they sold him in 2014. After stints with the Toffees, Manchester United and Inter Milan, Lukaku would make his return to Stamford Bridge, as Chelsea stumped up almost £100 million last summer with the expectation that he'd be the final piece of the puzzle in a campaign where they could challenge for the title. However, that's not been the case, and not only are Thomas Tuchel's side way off the pace at the top, but Lukaku has already been relegated to the bench. He started strongly enough with 3 goals in 3 games, but his 18 league appearances since have yielded just 2 more. Maybe engineering another return, this time to Inter Milan, would be better for both parties. So that was our 10 worst returns, but can you think of any more? Let us know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you next time.